Okay.
Just like you have
No other activities.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, okay.
Oh, good job.
He just.
Sounds good. Okay, I call this meeting to order at 4:05 PM. Are there any public comments? No public comments? Okay, any advisor announcements? Okay, yeah, I'll just wait for it. Okay, we can move on to roll call. Here on this.
Luca?
Here.
Zach?
Here.
Ben?
Here.
Yanni? Here. Okay.
Awesome. Okay, advisor announcements. Okay, Lisa's not here. Should I like wait? I'll just wait like 1, 2 minutes. Okay, I think we should just wait a little bit. Dennis might have some feedback because of. I want to have it in the room when we discuss that. That's fine. Okay, then let's just move on to business item 1. Zach will be presenting it. This item is to talk about the new budget rubric that we have designed in alignment with the budget guiding principles, and then we'll be taking action on it.
Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Zach. I'm one of the budget analysts for the finance committee. And for this business item, we are going to review the new budget rubrics, which was talked about last week. But for today, we want to seek approval for this new adjustment. So for those who are unaware of the new changes, I'll go through them again. So this is the old rubrics. This set of rubrics. So this set of rubrics is the rubrics that we use to assess programs during budget deliberations. So based on their budget requests, we would look through their form and compare it against this rubric and determine like a score for them to help us decide how much to fund them. So what you're seeing here is the old one, and I just want to bring our attention to 2 specific areas. Point 1 and 2. So the problem that I saw with this part is that start with budget guiding principles. So the budget guiding principles is a document that the finance committee uses that helps us in our decisions when it comes to funding programs. So the third point is basically asking how well the program aligns with our funding principles. And so just to show you guys what it looks like, this is the document, our guiding principles. And what I've highlighted are the main criteria that we look at when it comes to funding programs. So for example, we have we must make sure that the programs we fund help students succeed and enable them to achieve their academic and personal goals. So that's 1, and I have identified 6 main things to look at. And now back to the guiding, back to the rubric. The point 3, there is no real way for us to evaluate how well the program aligns with the budget guiding principles. There is no way for us to quantitatively assess like how many, like if there's a score or something. And in the same way, for the second point on impact, the way we judge the program is also on a very arbitrary basis, like just reading through their write-up and have a random assessment like, okay, I think the program, like, yeah, it causes an impact. So this is something that I feel that needs to be changed. And so the new budget rubrics, I have changed it to look like this. So the part about impact still remains, but impact is together with two other new areas that I'm proposing, which is DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and environmental sustainability. And the reason I add these two new areas is that in the budget guiding principles, and the reason I added those two new points was because of these criteria in the guiding principles. So we are looking for programs that follow environmentally sustainable practices and also programs that fund DEI. They're programs that promote DEI. And in the previous rubric, there was no assessment point for these two criteria. And so with the new rubric, we are able to assess the programs whether they are fulfilling this portion. And so these two new items with the old item of impact will altogether create a will help us assess the program's alignment to the budget guiding principles in a way that we can actually track. So instead of the old one, where we have just one section for budget guiding principles and we make a random guess of how well they fit. By looking at these three areas, we can make a very clear assessment of how well they align with the budget guiding principle. So that is basically all the changes there is. Everything below remains the same. These are extra information that we use to evaluate the programs, which are unchanged from the previous document. So in terms of approving a new changes, these are the areas which we're looking at.
Go ahead, motions are approved. I mean, first, does anyone have any questions regarding this? Any discussions about the new proposal? Go ahead.
Yeah, just a question. So in October 2023, that's when the budget guiding principles was approved by the DASG Senate. And so fast forward now, your mission is to just come up to regulations with that by including DEI and environmental sustainability?
It's more of making sure that we are following the guiding principles in a more structured way. Because previously it can be a bit inconsistent with the way we assess from people to people. So now it helps us, adhere to the regulations a bit more.
The regulations being like what was approved back then and
Yeah,
a year ago.
The guiding principles.
so the guiding principles are reviewed every year, so that is one thing you can do, it doesn't always change. They've been refined a bit over the years, already. They get tweaked a little bit if needed, or the same thing could be approved, so we want to do that also, first, really, by the way. And then the rubric is just. So the whole rubric kind of referred to the guiding principles, but it wasn't clear, and it didn't specify like it meets these specific items in the guiding principles. So they're not necessarily changing the guiding principles, they're making the rubric match the guiding principles, or at least refer to it. But like I said, you'll want to review the guiding principles too, and if necessary, make changes, if not, just adopt the same version for the new year.
Yeah.
And then you would, update and then you would approve the rubric at the map.
I think we did talk about the guiding principles, but since they were like just approved, we decided that we would be like approving them towards the end of the year.
No, they were approved last fall. They could always get reviewed in the fall before the budget process. What do you mean, just approved?
Like,
Well, they,
last year, right? So we didn't like see any like.
yeah, I
conflicts.
mean, there's not
Changes,
necessarily gonna
so,
be
yeah.
any changes. It could just be the exact same one that's currently on the website. You just need to say officially, okay, we are,
Okay.
you just need to approve that. That is what the guiding principle will be again for 2026.
Okay.
But yeah, they don't necessarily have need any changes. They have just been re-adopted in the past, or sometimes they get a little bit changed.
I just want to confirm the changes that you made for last week when you presented this are the DEI and the environmental sustainability.
Yes, and instead of having a section for alignment to budget guiding principles, these three sections together will ensure that they align.
Okay.
So instead of sort of one vague, how does this align with the principles? They've now broken it down to be more specific to some of those guiding things.
So would it be possible for us to like go over the guiding principles too right now? And just like look at them and like see if there's any like
Yes.
discussion about it? Yeah. Okay, we're going to
Can
reach-
can
Yeah,
we-
you can like switch over to the guiding principles and like just go over that, explain every plan.
This is the current one.
What's the date on that one?
Now,
October 20.
yeah, 18 October 23.
Can we approve the new ones?
I think this is one we just first, if there's like anything.
Last question.
Yes.
So for environmental sustainability to meet that requirement, do you provide any examples as to what a club has to do? For the environmental sustainability requirement on the rubric
Yeah, example of,
how to meet that? Like, is there any clear cut or it's just within interpretation?
I don't know if there is a clear definition.
Yeah, so from my understanding, there is no clear requirement. It's it's what not the club, by the way, it's the program. What the program chooses to do, they tell it to us. And that's where we just understand what the program is doing. But there's no clear requirement.
So do you just want to talk about that and see if like there's any discussion regarding the principles?
Okay, so just to go through the budget guiding principles that was approved 2023, October 2023. I will go through the current budget guiding principles, and if there are any questions,
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a question, just bouncing off of what was said earlier. If a program is applying to get funding and let's say they don't meet, like they don't get 4 points on like, for example, the environmental sustainability, do they get an opportunity to revise their budget, or is it just like a one shot, or like one chance deal?
What do you mean by revised?
Because like, you guys use these, like, you guys use this rubric to evaluate whether the funding, like to approve the funding, correct?
for that year.
For that program that's applying.
Mhm.
So if a program falls short of like meeting, I guess, a certain like criteria, do they get a chance to like revise their initial proposal?
So what we do about this is when they submit the form and we see that there are gaps in the form, like maybe they left out a portion about what they do for environmentally sustainable practices. That is when we may conduct an interview to ask the program for more information. And it's through that interview process, we kind of give like feedback or to request for more information.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
That's my question.
Okay.
Following up on that question, so would they be able to reapply if guidelines are not met for that same piece of funding? Or will they, after the interview process, they continue to be denied? That's it, that's over?
So if they're like denied funding, they can always come to the Senate and appeal and explain why they need that more funding, and then the Senate sits together and deliberates whether that program needs that funding or not.
Thank you.
And if I can add, the interview process is actually a way for us to help the programs as well, because we're not trying to deny anyone funds. So if we see something is missing, we want to know more information. That is the part where we like request for more information, and if that information helps us to make a better allocation, I think that is what we're trying to do. Yeah. Yep, so for those who have not seen this document yet, it is available on the finance committee website, but I'm not gonna go through every single one, but just to let you guys read what is on the document right now. And if anyone has any questions on any guiding principles, you can ask them right now.
Not that.
Okay,
Including the required percentage of the beginning. To see if anyone has any questions about it.
okay, yeah, so to just go through it, I'll read it off. So these are for the programs requesting funds from DASG, and they directly affect the DANZA students, except for recruitment programs conducted by DASG constituents at DANZA College for prospective DASG constituents. The first one is we fund programs that help students succeed and enable them to achieve their academic and personal goals. Second, fund programs that promote leadership, civic engagement, and student advocacy. Third one, fund programs that promote diversity, equity, and inclusion. Fourth, fund programs that follow environmentally sustainable practices. Fund programs based on the current value and needs of the program rather than solely on historical funding trends. Fund programs that benefit students during the 2024-2025 fiscal year. Fund programs that benefit DASG constituents. Fund programs that promote student retention by enhancing the quality of education at DANZA College. And finally, fund programs that support student activities and enhance the student co-curricular or extracurricular experience.
Yeah, we need to read through it.
In other words, fund programs that are not considered essential programs and services, because those are on the responsibility of the college to fund. So essential programs and services include, but are not limited to, tutorial services for students, transfer counseling services, athletics entry fees and referees, and etc. So are there any questions or anything unclear about these guiding principles? Yeah.
The programs you guys fund, report back on how they're spending the money that they use, but do you guys have any relationship with the funds after it's sent to the programs?
Yes. So we can see how much money was spent, and we use that data to track how much money is being spent by the program historically too. So the money isn't like just like dished out to the program, it's kind of more like a reimbursement process.
It's all, so rather than going through the district accounting process or the, non-transparent nightmare. It's all processed for DSG and clubs. All those funds are processed in the student accounts office next to the Austin College Life. And that information is readily available and accessible. They put out monthly financial statements, and we try to put out individual account reports weekly. So yeah, all that information is available and they see it. May not be real time, especially when it's like payroll, because that only updates once a month. But the finance committee and anyone really can't see that. The way you run things.
Understood. And kind of a follow-up question to that, do the programs you guys run, do they like, write reports as well to talk about what it is that they're like more than just accounting and financial statements? Do they write something to go along with that to break down kind of how they're spending, or no, not really?
They can, but I don't think we've made that a requirement in the past. We do ask them like what they have achieved in the previous year after we give them funding in the new form. So if that's what you're looking for, then yes, we do ask them like, okay, what do you do with the money? What events do you host and how were they? How many students came and stuff like that?
But it's kind of like after they spend the funds and not concurrently, not with while they're spending and not.
Yes.
And it's part of the annual budget process for the following year. Some of that is hard to, keep track of while it's going on, because, the budget process for 2025, 2026 is gonna be going on pretty much now throughout the quarter, at least applications are gonna be received now and reviewed, and then the budget deliberation process goes through the winter quarter, through February generally. So all we can really do at that point, especially for some events, and so many events don't even have until spring quarter. So really, all we can do is look at how they did last year. How they spent their money, through the use of funds, did they spend it efficiently, did they, leave a ton on the table, unused, which could have probably gone to another program that may have needed it, or did they use it all or most of it, and so on. So all that is reviewed during the annual budget process for the upcoming fiscal year. In some cases, that's the only way we can do it, because in many cases, the events aren't even until spring for some of the programs.
Interesting. Thank you.
So for the, resources that you guys aren't allowed to fund because they're supposed to be funded by the college, do you guys get a list of those, like what you guys can't fund, like tutorial services and like other stuff? Do you guys get like a list from the college, like, oh, you can't fund these because they're on to
It's not like a concrete list, like sometimes we do fill in when the college does not have funds to pay for some positions, for example, like. A few years back, we used to fund like the tutoring services, but then the college decided to take up on that. And there's just like a few things which are like, just like essential to a college, like professors' salaries, we cannot be funding those, and like, just like things that are required for a college to function. Like the bare minimum, we don't really fund those positions, however, we have pitched in the past.
It's not necessarily a list from the college of what DSG can and cannot fund. It's more on the DSG side of things, because for a long time, rather than meet its responsibilities, the college was going to the DSG for certain things like tutoring services. And that's one of those things you would expect the college to have, anywhere you go. And you would expect the college to be supporting that. Whereas the student body fees could be supporting other things that aren't essential services that the college needs to be funding anyway. So it's more of a DSG role that we're trying to get the college to understand that, there are some things you're supposed to be funding, and then you'll fund the extracurricular, co-curricular, additional things that aren't necessarily something that would be expected for every college to have.
So then is it like an ongoing discussion between the college and DASG, just like year to year based on any changes to proposals that have been made between what DASG will take care of and what the college takes care of?
Not really, because like most of the essential services don't really request funds from the DASG. However, we do fund a few classified staff positions as of now, because the college cannot really take up on those.
Yeah. To answer your question, they have had those kind of discussions in the past. Because, for example, the tutorial services, they were funding it for a very long time, and they were, working with the college, reducing the funding, a little bit over multiple years. And advocating with the college needs to pick this up. And so eventually, DSG was able to cut the funding entirely, and then the college was able to find the funding for it. So it's not necessarily ongoing every year, but it does come when necessary.
So like when you guys decide to like maybe pitch in for part of something, is that also something that just happens when it needs to happen?
Yeah, it's a little more complex than that. I mean,
We try to keep it at a bare minimum, but sometimes when it's like absolutely needed and the college just does not have the like means to fund any position, then we do step in sometimes depending on like the negative.
and they try to, focus on operational needs first. Before anything outside. simply because, you know, they need it to function, the DSG.
In the event that the college does ask for funds from DASG, do they go through this process as well or separate?
What was that?
Or what he was talking about? When they ask for these funds that don't really go with extracurriculars, but they rely on someone else to fund it and say they come to DASG, do they, whoever he was talking about, do they go through this process or a separate one?
Well, they would have to go through this process and they would get, you know, discussion and, you know, whether these funds it or not, it's gonna be up to the, you know, finance committee and then the Senate.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Any discussion regarding the principles?
Kind of curious, does the actual like DNs of board, do they have any power over the student government or can the student government vote fund whatever they feel like?
Like the the board of trustees?
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely do. So the budget in the end is finalized by the board of trustees. Like we make a presentation and show it to the trustees. And they like make a motion to like approve it and that's when the budget actually gets finalized.
Okay.
Now, if you're thinking of something more than that, generally speaking, no, I mean, they don't dictate how the DSG wants to spend it or not. There are guidelines that the whole district must follow, not just DSG. There are just certain things that DSG or any other funds they can be used for. But other than that, it's mostly just approving the final budget. If there are any major issues that come up, they could delay the approval if necessary.
More questions? Okay, so one change that I did notice that we have to put in is, if you're approving this for next year, then you have to make it 25, 26.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so-
actually,
That's like I think that's probably the only thing we might have to change unless someone thinks that there's something else that we should also put in or remove or edit. No? Okay. Yes, sir.
Do you tell them what the weighting is? Because it says it's 0 to 4 multiplied by the weighting. Or are they all weighted the same, the non-categories?
For the rubric or, yeah, for the rubric, right?
Yeah. That's what you're talking about, right?
It's, this is like
No.
kind of like public, the rubric.
Yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
do you tell them what the weighting is?
do they know?
Oh, like,
Yeah.
Cause it says in the top right, 0 to 4 multiplied by the
I
weighting.
don't think we have advertised that before.
Um,
I don't think we really tell them, but I also don't feel like there's a need to tell them about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the, like, the funds, the limit to the funds that a club can request DSAC to provide?
DSG does not fund clubs, so
Okay.
that's one thing. DSG funds different programs throughout the campus.
Period.
Clubs are funded through ICC, which gets funded by DSG. So clubs are totally separate, but DSG funds different programs. And departments, divisions, that kind of thing.
There is no concrete upper limit to like the program funding, but we usually don't like fund like a lot of money at once. So, yeah, that's kind of subjective, depends on the type of event.
So let's say, a program like requests $25,000, for example. And you look, like you evaluate the form and you look at it and you're like, I wanna fund this, but I don't wanna give them $25,000.
Yeah,
You
it's
guys
not an all-
reserve the,
It's not an all or nothing.
yeah, so you guys get to the, okay, we'll give you 15,000. instead.
Yeah, it can be anything from 0 to their budgeted amount.
And you guys will never give more.
Yeah, we can. I mean, generally speaking.
Wait, would it be possible for us to like, probably change the guiding principles to?
It should technically be an agenda item, but as long as you're sure there's not gonna be any changes, like, let's go ahead and approve the rubric based on the same ones, except of course changing 2014 class, 25, 26.
Okay, so we can approve this principles in the next meeting and then we return. Sounds good. Are there any more questions about the budget rubric? The new one? Okay, can I get a motion to approve the new budget rubric?
I move to approve the new budget rubric for 2025-2026.
Can I get a second?
I second.
Yeah. Okay. So the motion to approve the new budget rubric passes.
You still need to ask, are there, all those in favor say aye, all those against say no.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All those not in favor say nay. Awesome, thank you. So the motion passes, and the new budget rubric is approved. Thank you. You're staying up there. Okay, moving on to business item 2. That's right on time for the perfect. Now we will move on to the budget presentation. Is it? Doesn't mean.
Oh, no. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Okay, so this presentation is basically like a short thing that we prepared to like give everyone over here a quick idea of like the finance committee and how the budget works. I know we talked about this before too, but this is just a little bit more in detail, and we're also gonna be talking about your intern projects after this. So yeah, if I could have all my senators come up. You're fine. Okay, no. Which senator? He's in the slides. Okay, so yeah, welcome again to the finance committee. This is our budget presentation. Do you want to start? With
Yeah,
the-
sure.
Okay.
Okay, so first off, let's introduce ourselves. So this is the finance committee as of this year. Who's the chair of finance?
I am the chair of finance. My name is Aditya Sharma. Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm the DHG president, but I'm also considered a budget analyst on the finance committee, so.
And then, what about you? Who are you?
I'm Zach.
Okay, he's also a budget analyst, as am I. I am Gan Ming. And where is my other colleague?
We have to go to the restroom.
Okay, his name is Van. And we also have our advisors to help carry out the duties of the finance committee. Like, there's Hyun Chu, there's Dennis. And Lisa, our accountant.
And move.
Oh. And, okay. So we have three quarters of operation. First one is fall. Fall is where we collect information such as through the budget request forms and conducting interviews. And your intern project will probably have something to do with information gathering this quarter. And let's see, winter is when we get all the information from fall and then sit down together and start deliberating about the budget. There's 2 meetings about budget for budget deliberations. One is the finance in the finance committee, where the entire finance committee, which includes you interns, come around, we sit together for a couple days and decide on the budget. And this plan that we formulate, we present to the General Senate, which is where all the other senators will be. And together with them, we will discuss the new plan, make changes, and approve a new version of the budget deliberations plan. Yeah, in my opinion, it's the best part, because sometimes you get to hear some heated arguments. Yes. All right, now on to spring. After the General Senate, yeah. You guys on track? Okay. After the General Senate decides on a finalized budget for in the winter, we then present this budget to the Board of Trustees in the spring. Yeah, and to do that, we would basically compile all the information such as how much revenue we got, what exactly is our plan to allocate everything, And yeah, very exciting stuff. And yeah, other than that, there's not much to do during the spring, so we start new projects, such as the one presented by my colleague before us.
Okay. Yeah. That's if you want to. Yeah. Sure, thank you.
Okay. So just an introduction to the kind of funds we manage, the DSG Finance Committee. So if you haven't heard of the first fund, Fund 41, this is also known as our general fund. And over here is some details about our
Yeah, no, it's part of it is the revenue. So you see, Fund 41 comes mainly from card sales and student events. As you can see from this pie chart. This is the prior year balance, this is the card sales and the student events over here. It's the larger of the two funds we have, the other is Fund 46. And it's mainly for on-campus activities. Be they student government costs or programs led by students on campus.
And so previously when I talked about the budget requests, all the programs that we fund, most of them will come out of this fund.
Yeah, this fund includes 31 programs. And next is Fund 46, and that's your special.
So I showed you guys last meeting, the Fund 46 website. So this one is the total fund we received for 2024, 2025. And we received from the prior year balance is 2,400, which is like less than the previous years a lot. And then if you see in 2021, 2022, we received more we collect more of the total student representation fee, but then it's reduced throughout the years. So right now we have less money than the previous years. And I think mainly it's because the student opt out of the $2 student representation fee when they pay for the tuition at the beginning of the quarter. And it reduced the fund we have. So it's also reduced the power with like the allocation we have for the conferences and advocacy training on campus. And that's why we have the website to promote this Fund 46, and I presented it last week. And the next one is special allocations.
Okay, so special allocations. Basically, what special allocations are is once we're done with our like deliberation process for say Fund 41, and we have a bunch of money left. So we might just place that into a special category called special allocations. And throughout the next year, like whenever people have like bigger events and they need extra money for anything that they had planned, they can always come and request like more money, and we will be giving that money out of special allocations to them. So there's special allocations for Fund 41 and for Fund 46. Is that clear? That is.
Yeah, it's not just additional funding. I mean, it could even be things that, didn't request funding the previous year or didn't get funding the previous year or the current year. But it's for any, basically any unforeseen needs in the current fiscal year. So this isn't the annual budget process. This is a little bit of funding that's set aside during the annual budget process for that fiscal year to be used.
Fund 46 has no special allocation.
Yes, Fund 46 has
This
no
year.
special allocation this year.
But you can allocate from Fund 41 if you desire to do that.
Go ahead.
Is it all right if we get a couple of examples of what Fund 46 fund and what Fund 41 funds as well?
Yes, so Fund 46 is basically for like advocacy and like student workshops. So some of the like SSCCC is one of the student advocacy events that happens, and that is funded through Fund 46 generally. While Fund 41 might fund something like an on-campus event, say the DASG Hackathon or something like that. Yeah, that's good.
But just rather than just using Fund 41 and 6, Fund 41 is the general fund and can be used for almost anything, I mean, within all the legal guidelines, so. And including the types of things that can be funded through Fund 46. Fund 46 can only be used for funding, and what Fund 46 is the student representation fee. So it's essentially for any representation or advocacy related activities and training. So attending now this, because there's not a lot of funds in it, this year, DSG is funding it from Fund 41, but in the past, attending the general assemblies for the SSCCC or Student Senate for Catholic Community Colleges, it has been funded from Fund 46. Attending the California Community College Student Affairs Association Student Leadership Conference has been funded from Fund 46. We have the Public Policy School and VITA, the Vasconcelos Institute for Democracy in Action, get funding from Fund 46. And there's a FAPAC and a conference as well. I forget the name of the conference, but it's also related to FA or the Faculty Association. So basically anything having to do with, advocacy, political or community or anything, and training as well, student leadership, workshops and development and so on.
And those trainings are for your student leaders and for your faculty, is that correct? Or is it for like?
It's all for students.
Okay, so so no faculty, it's for like student leaders and students in general can attend those conferences or those?
Yeah, I mean, there would be an advisor that has to attend as well, but we wouldn't fund just an advisor.
It's primarily for students, got it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay, any more questions for special allocations?
If there's none, let's move on.
Okay,
Yeah, all right, the intern onboarding process. I believe you made the slide samples. Yeah.
So for everyone's information, this is how we get interns on board with us and what the interns are doing after that. So the first step in this entire process is that you guys will attend a minimum of at least 2 meetings for any committee, in this case, finance committee. And once you're done with at least 2 committee meetings, you can arrange with any of the senators and we will conduct an onboarding interview. So it'll be a simple, short, 10 minutes interview of us getting to know you. And once you get accepted to be an intern, this is when you start the intern project. So these are projects that you will help us with throughout the year. And one of the first projects that we will get you to do is something we call the program familiarization project. And basically what you will do in this project is that we will assign each intern a program on campus. For example, we will assign you a marine biology program. And so what you will do is reach out to the program, either to arrange an interview or go to the office or just hang out with them. And once you get to know what the program does, you will prepare a short report, or you can tell us what you've learned. And the intention behind this project is that we want the committee and future interns to have a better idea of the programs we are funding. So create a stronger relationship with the programs or know them more in depth. So that's the idea behind it. And that's the first project you will do, and everything else after that would be ad hoc projects that you will work on with us, assisting us, like marketing projects or making changes to existing processes and stuff. So yeah, that's what you can expect moving forward.
okay, and one more thing, you will get interviewed in the 3rd meeting, like after the 3rd meeting. So no interviews happening today, only next week. If you attend to the meetings, that is, yeah. Okay, any questions about the intern onboarding process? Go ahead.
What's the insurance budget timeline? Like, is it gonna take 2 quarters or so? What are you talking about?
Like the program and familiarization, the first one.
I don't know, any.
There is no strict timeline. It happens on a rolling basis.
It does have to happen first before the budget deliberations.
Like if a new intern shows up, they can still like do
Yeah.
it later, but like, yeah.
Oh, is that what you're asking? Like, is there a deadline to apply or something?
Well, like, I mean, is it gonna take the entire quarter or should we let it out? How do we plan on that?
Oh, like you're asking like a deadline for you to submit your project or something?
I think
How
we're
long the
asking how
project
long
takes.
the project takes, like, is it something that you
Oh.
do intermittently throughout the whole quarter, or is it something you get done and then
It
you fund
should,
that?
Should, yeah, good.
it should take like 2 weeks. I mean, you're reaching out to the programs and then familiarizing yourself with them.
I was gonna say.
Well, I think the projects. The various projects can be, anything, and it could depend on the project, how long it takes. If there's I mean, basically, the end of the year is the deadline for everything. If, you have to get it all finished by the end of this academic year. Any projects that you guys are working on. As far as interns, if there's no deadline for when they can join, they can pretty much join the Senate or the committee anytime. Maybe not so much in spring quarter though, you're only gonna be an intern for a few weeks before the year ends.
Go ahead.
Do you have a cap on the number of interns you can have?
Not really, no. Okay.
For hosting an event, like for example, the hackathon that was here, what was the process like? Who did you have to get approvals from, and then how did you end up getting this stuff done?
So basically, there was someone who requested the money from the finance committee, and then they had come up to the finance committee and present why they needed that money. And then they were given that money from the 23-24 special allocations budget. Yeah.
No, for this year.
Oh, for this year's hackathon, the one that's happening right now? Oh, yeah, for that one, yeah, the same thing happened. They presented back then and they got money for that for 24-25 special allocation budget.
So is it like a club member who goes to you? or just
Let's not talk about hackathon, because that's still issue, but no, generally,
Yeah.
there's a finance request form. A program would complete the form, and whether it's an existing account or a new account, same form. And we're gonna be working on updating those forms, but, they would fill out the program name, description and so on, what other source of funding they have. What they're requesting funding for, everything is within line items or object codes, so basically different categories.
So it's not a club event though, it's not a club
Program.
event, yeah.
Yeah, it's not a club. The DSG, like I said, does not fund clubs. It will fund the ICC, which it will fund clubs. But DSG does fund various programs on campus, music program or athletics, and so on and so forth. So they complete the application, goes to the finance committee. They, interview, the people submitting the application have to come to the committee meeting to present it and answer questions. If finance approves it, it goes to the Senate, and then Senate, finance committee presents to the Senate. Ideally, the presenters, that were at finance are also at the Senate meeting to answer questions. And then the Senate would approve it again or not. And it's not necessarily gonna be for the full amount, it's supposed to be either, it could be for any amount, 0 up to the amount.
Yeah, is there going to be like a form or something to arrange the interview with one of the Senate members, or how would you go about
The interview is all the committee members are going to interview at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so after the intern.
Hold on, are you referring to the intern interviews or the program interviews?
Oh, I meant the intern.
The intern,
The intern.
yeah,
Okay.
So after the intern interviews, which happened on the third meeting, we're gonna organize into groups under each senator. And then we will start on that program familiarization project then. Yeah. So it could be attending an event or just going to ask the faculty of that program some questions. There's a lot of flexibility. And we haven't finalized a lot of the instructions yet. So. Yeah. So no need to feel too nervous. We're pretty nervous about this too.
Okay,
All right.
any more questions?
Can I ask you something?
Go ahead.
So I'm attending this meeting through Zoom today, but is it also approved for attending one of the committee meetings for it?
I don't think we allow that. No, you have to be in person.
In person? Okay, so can I join next weekend meetings in person then?
Yes, yes, you can join any meetings in person, that's what.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? No? Yes, alright, okay. So moving on to public comments. Are there any public comments? Okay, moving on to advisory announcements. Any advisory announcements?
Nothing, I think. Good air tomorrow, probably tomorrow. I'll review everything that was sent. Get sent out. I'll tend to.
Okay, Lisa, do you have anything?
No.
Okay. If I could have the prospective interns in an orderly fashion, form a line on this side.
Yes.
Yes.
Remember the video from when you were at?
The what?
The main
The main question.
This is.
You'll be published like, yeah. We should say like 2 weeks to visit. Like you say now, you have like 30 years. So like. But I can. Okay, just. After they're done, maybe. I think they will leave, after they will leave. Yeah, yeah. Okay, everyone, listen. Is everyone on the Discord? No. Yes?
Student government district.
No? Okay, there's a student government Discord. Luca, can you like add her as a friend and send
Yeah,
her?
anybody who's not in the Discord, just come towards me, I can send you the invite.
Yeah, make sure you're on the Discord. We're gonna be sending out a little bit of a form where you can choose your interview date and then we like let you guys know where we're gonna go ahead from that, okay? Make sure you keep an eye out on the Discord.
For the project that. The project that we have to do.
Sorry, this is what it looks like every day.
So after the meeting today.
Oh, I thought you were here last. Fiscal year. Oh, my bad.
Last year.
Yeah, you started from last year.
Oh,
Sorry, like. So. After that, we will final one. We will have. The project of the we will do.
Some questions, if you don't mind.
You will like.
Okay, so, we'll leave that last.
Like,
AirPods now.
Oh, okay.
I think there are more terms now.
Yeah, I will choose now. We will choose on. Enrollment is the one side. I think it's right there, like, which. Anything they have.
I think, the amount of interns definitely does drop off once the election happens, and like some people like this election, they kind of do try to.
we find out about the.
Yeah, so after those, some people do drop off. To probably try to. Yeah, I know, so, the previous year, the previous project. Yeah, so we, yeah, so we handled the process. And now yeah. Anything else?
What the?
So previously what used to happen was like, you used to like make them do like a list finance. And after that, like, you like, every them in the room. And I also got to do the same. And that's how I went.
这就是打游戏用的，下手游戏，下手游戏，
But now.
为什么这么乖？
一旦要出去，
Of course.
you'll see. All their name, all their address there.
All right, I adjourn this meeting at 5:02 PM.
Yeah.